Captain Zethkar stood on the bridge of his command vessel and watched the star charts with growing interest. The Kravok raider had been studying human shipping routes for weeks now, and something bothered him about what he saw. His tactical officer, Sub-Commander Vextall, stood beside him pointing at the display with one of his 4 arms. "Look at this pattern again, sir," Vextall said in their harsh native tongue. "Every other species in the galaxy follows the same rules. The Altarians travel in groups of 5 ships minimum. The Centaurians use 3-ship formations. Even the peaceful Andromedans send their cargo vessels in pairs for protection." Zethkar nodded and tapped his clawed finger against the metal console. His species had been raiding merchant vessels for over 200 years. They knew the patterns of every major trading race in this sector of space. The Kravoks were experts at reading shipping manifests and predicting convoy routes. It was how they had become the most feared pirates in 3-star systems. "But the humans," Vextall continued, "they send their ships alone, always alone. No escorts, no convoy formations, no protection fleets. Just single vessels traveling through the most dangerous space lanes in the galaxy." The display showed dozens of human cargo routes crisscrossing through contested space. Each route was marked with a single ship designation. No backup vessels, no military escorts, no support craft. It made no sense from a tactical standpoint. "Perhaps they are simply foolish," suggested Vextall. "Humans are a young species. They have only been traveling between stars for a few decades. Maybe they do not understand the dangers of deep space." Zethkar was not convinced. His intelligence network had provided detailed reports on human capabilities. They were not a stupid species. Their technology was advanced, their military was well organized, and their traders were known throughout the sector for being shrewd negotiators. So why did they send valuable cargo ships through pirate-infested space without protection? The bridge door slid open, and Communications Officer Kral Tex entered with a datapad in his hands. "Sir, we have intercepted another human shipping manifest. A cargo vessel called Liberty's Edge is scheduled to pass through the Vega Nebula in 6 hours. The ship is carrying agricultural supplies to the frontier colonies." Zethkar studied the information. The Vega Nebula was known throughout the sector as a prime hunting ground for raiders. The dense gas clouds provided perfect cover for ambush tactics. Most species avoided the area entirely or sent heavily armed convoys through the region. "What kind of escort does the vessel have?" Zethkar asked. "None, sir. According to our intelligence, it is traveling alone." "Alone?" Zethkar could not hide his surprise. A single cargo ship carrying valuable supplies through the most dangerous nebula in the sector? "That appears to be correct, sir. Our scouts have confirmed that no other human vessels are in the area. The nearest human naval ship is 3-star systems away." Zethkar turned to his tactical display and began calculating attack vectors. His fleet consisted of 20 fast attack vessels, each armed with plasma cannons and boarding equipment. Against a single merchant ship, the odds were overwhelmingly in his favor. "Vextall, prepare the fleet for an intercept mission. We will surround this human vessel and capture it intact. I want to know why they travel alone." "Yes, sir." "Shall I alert the boarding parties?" "Not yet. First, I want to talk to this human captain. I am curious about the reasoning." As his fleet moved toward the intercept coordinates, Zethkar reviewed what he knew about human merchant vessels. They were typically lightly armed with basic defensive systems. Their crews were small, usually between 10 and 20 individuals. They carried no marines or security forces beyond basic ship security. The Liberty's Edge appeared on their sensors exactly on schedule. The human vessel was a standard freight hauler, roughly half the size of a Kravok warship. Its hull was painted in the blue and white colors of the human merchant marine. The ship moved through space at a steady pace, showing no signs of concern despite entering the dangerous nebula. "Sir, we are in position," reported Vextol. "The human vessel is completely surrounded. They have no escape route." Zethkar activated. The communication system. "Human vessel, this is Captain Zethkar of the Kravak Raider fleet. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded." The response came back almost immediately. The human captain's voice was calm and professional. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the merchant vessel Liberty's Edge. You are interfering with lawful commerce. Please clear the shipping lane." Zethkar was taken aback by the casual tone. Most merchant captains begged for mercy when faced with a raider fleet. This human sounded as if he was discussing the weather. "Captain Morrison, you are surrounded by 20 warships. Your vessel is outgunned and outnumbered. Surrender now, and your crew will not be harmed." "I appreciate your concern," Morrison replied, "but I would not recommend that course of action." "Not recommend? You are one ship against 20. What possible advantage do you think you have?" "Because I am not really alone out here." Zethkar frowned and gestured to his sensor operator. "Scan the area again." "Are there any other human vessels in the region?" "No, sir. The nearest human ship is still 3 systems away. There are no other vessels within sensor range." Zethkar opened the channel again. "Captain Morrison, our sensors show no other ships in this area. You are clearly alone. Are you certain about that?" Morrison's voice carried a hint of amusement. "Completely certain. You are attempting to bluff your way out of this situation." "If you say so, but I would suggest you reconsider your attack. Things are not always what they seem in deep space." Zethkar had heard enough. This human was obviously trying to buy time or confuse them with psychological tactics. It was time to end this conversation and seize the cargo vessel. "Vextol, prepare boarding parties. We will take this ship by force." "Yes, sir." "All ships report. Ready for boarding operations." Zethkar activated the fleet communication system. "All vessels, power weapons, and prepare for boarding. The human will learn that the Kravaks do not respond well to threats." On the screen, the Liberty's Edge continued its steady course through the nebula, showing no signs of fear or preparation for combat. Captain Morrison had not even raised his defensive shields. "Sir," Morrison's voice came through the comm system again, "I really must insist that you reconsider. This situation is about to become very complicated for you. The only complication will be deciding what to do with your cargo," Zethkar replied. "Final warning, Captain. Surrender now or face the consequences." There was a pause before Morrison responded. When he spoke again, his tone had changed from casual to slightly regretful. "Very well. You have been warned. This is Liberty's Edge to any friendlies in the area. I have a situation here." Zethkar was about to cut the transmission when another voice responded. The voice was crisp, professional, and unmistakably human. But it was not coming from the Liberty's Edge. "This is Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park. I copy your transmission, Liberty's Edge. Stand by for assistance." The blood in Zethkar's veins turned to ice. The voice was coming from inside his own flagship. Zethkar spun around on his bridge and stared at his crew in shock. The voice of Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park had come through their internal communication system, not from the human merchant vessel. His tactical officer, Vextol, was frantically checking his sensor displays, trying to understand what was happening. "Sir, this is impossible," Vextol said, his voice shaking. "There are no other ships in this area. Our sensors would have detected any vessel within 100,000 kilometers. Then how is a human officer speaking to us from inside our own ship?" Zethkar demanded. Before anyone could answer, Park's voice came through the comm system again. "Captain Morrison, this is Park. I have been monitoring the situation from aboard the Kravak flagship. These raiders have made a serious mistake. Morrison's calm voice responded from the Liberty's edge. Copy that, Lisa. How many friendlies do we have in the area? 12 operatives deployed across the raider fleet, Park replied. All teams are in position and ready to proceed. Zethkar felt his blood pressure rising. 12 humans on his ships? It was impossible. His fleet had been operating independently for months. They had not encountered any human vessels that could have deployed personnel. Vextal, seal all sections of the ship immediately. Begin a deck-by-deck search for intruders. Yes, sir. But, sir, how could humans have gotten aboard our vessels without our knowledge? I do not know, but we will find out. Alert all ships in the fleet. Tell them to search for human infiltrators. As Vextal began issuing orders, more voices began speaking through the communication system. A male voice with a slight accent identified himself as Sergeant Tony Martinez, reporting from the heavy cruiser Vengeance of Kravak. A female voice announced herself as Corporal Amy Foster, speaking from the engineering section of the destroyer Blood Talon. One by one, human operatives began revealing themselves throughout the raider fleet. Each announcement sent a chill through the Kravak crews. The hunters had become the hunted, and they did not even know when the trap had been set. Sir, came a panicked voice from the ship's internal security team. We found something in Storage Bay 7. You need to see this. Zethkar left the bridge and hurried to the storage bay, followed by Vextal and 2 security guards. When they arrived, they found a small hidden compartment behind a stack of supply crates. Inside the compartment was advanced human technology, including communication equipment, weapons, and life support systems. How long has this been here? Zethkar asked the security chief. We do not know, sir. It could have been installed weeks ago. The equipment is well hidden and shielded from our sensors. Weeks? But we have not encountered any human vessels in weeks. Actually, you have, came a new voice from behind them. The Kravaks spun around to see a human female in military gear stepping out from behind another stack of crates. She was tall and athletic, with short brown hair and confident eyes. I am Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park, and I have been a guest on your ship for the past month. Zethkar reached for his weapon, but Park raised her hand in a peaceful gesture. I would not recommend that, Captain. My team has been monitoring your ship's vital systems. Any aggressive action could result in some unfortunate malfunctions. How? Zethkar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. How did you get on my ship? Do you remember the Altarian convoy you raided 4 weeks ago? The one carrying medical supplies to the Tau City colony? Zethkar nodded. It had been a routine raid, successful and profitable. One of those medical transport ships was not really carrying medical supplies, Park continued. It was carrying my team. When you boarded the vessel, we transferred to your ships during the confusion. You have been carrying us ever since. The implications of this revelation struck Zethkar like a physical blow. The humans had used their own apparent vulnerability as bait. They had allowed their ships to be captured so they could infiltrate the raider fleet from within. But why? Zethkar asked. Why would you sacrifice your own people for such a dangerous mission? We were not sacrificed, Park replied. We volunteered, and we were never in any real danger. The Altarian convoy was a joint operation between human and Altarian forces. Every ship in that convoy was crewed by volunteers who knew the risks. Morrison's voice came through the comm system again. Captain Zethkar, I think it is time we had a proper conversation. My name is Jake Morrison, and I am not really a merchant captain. I am a colonel in the Human Special Operations Command. Special Operations? Zethkar felt his legs growing. Weak, that is correct. For the past 3 months, we have been tracking your fleet's movements. Every raid you have conducted, every base you have visited, every supply depot you have used. We know everything about your operations. But our intelligence networks would have detected human surveillance, Vextall protested. Your intelligence. Networks have been compromised for months, Morrison replied. Some of your most trusted information sources have been working for us. We have been feeding you false information and steering you toward targets of our choosing. Park smiled and activated a small device on her wrist. Captain, I think you should know that my team has been very busy during our stay on your ship. We have copied your entire computer database, mapped your supply networks, and identified every raider base in 3 sectors. You cannot do this, Zethkar said, his voice growing desperate. We are a sovereign fleet. You have no authority in this region of space. Actually, we do, Morrison replied. The Galactic Trade Commission has granted humanity enforcement authority in this sector. Piracy has been declared a threat to interstellar commerce, and we have been authorized to take whatever action is necessary to eliminate it. More voices began reporting through the comm system. Human operatives were revealing themselves on ships throughout the fleet. The raider captains were frantically trying to regain control of their vessels, but it was too late. The humans had been planning this operation for months. Captain Morrison, Zethkar said into his comm unit, what do you want from us? I want you to understand something very important, Morrison replied. Humans do not send ships alone because we are weak or foolish. We send ships alone because we are confident in our abilities. Every human vessel that travels through dangerous space is protected, just not in the way you might expect. Protected how? By the knowledge that if anything happens to us, there will be consequences. By the certainty that human forces are always watching, always ready to respond. And sometimes by the presence of people like Lieutenant Commander Park and her team. Park nodded to her hidden communicator. All teams, this is Park. Begin Phase 2 of the operation. Secure all raider vessels. And prepare for extraction. What is Phase 2? Zethkar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. The part where we shut down your entire operation, Park replied. Your raiding days are over, Captain. All of them. The lights on the bridge began to flicker as human operatives took control of the ship's systems. Emergency alarms started sounding. Throughout the fleet, as the raiders realized, they were no longer in control of their own vessels. Morrison's voice came through the comm system one final time. Captain Zethkar, I strongly recommend that you order your crews to surrender peacefully. This operation is much larger than just your fleet, and resistance will only make things worse for everyone involved. Zethkar looked around his bridge, at his panicked crew, and then at the calm, professional human officer who had been living on his ship for weeks without his knowledge. For the first time in his long career as a raider, he felt completely defeated. All ships, he said into his comm unit, this is Captain Zethkar. Stand down and prepare to surrender. We have been outmaneuvered. The surrender of the Kravac fleet was only the beginning. As Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park coordinated with her team members throughout the raider vessels, the full scope of the human operation began to reveal itself. This was not just about capturing one pirate fleet. It was about sending a message to every raider, smuggler, and pirate in the sector. Captain Nina Brooks appeared on the main screen of Zethkar's bridge. She was a stern-looking woman in her 40s, with silver hair and intense blue eyes. Her uniform bore the insignia of the Human Defense Force, and her expression was all business. Captain Zethkar, she said, I am Captain Nina Brooks, commanding officer of the Human Special Operations Task Force. I have been coordinating this operation from a classified location. Where are you? Zethkar asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer. I am aboard the heavy cruiser Normandy, which has been shadowing your fleet for the past 6 weeks. We have been monitoring your communications and tracking your movements since you entered this sector. Sethkar felt his heart sink. The humans had been watching them for weeks, learning their patterns, studying their tactics. The Krovaks had thought they were the predators, but they had been the prey all along. "Captain Brooks," Sethkar said, "how many of our raids have you been monitoring?" "All of them. Every attack you have conducted in the past 3 months has been observed and documented. We have video evidence of your crews committing acts of piracy against 17 different merchant vessels. On screens throughout the bridge, footage began playing of various Krovak raids. The videos were taken from multiple angles, showing the pirates boarding defenseless cargo ships and stealing their contents. The quality was perfect, as if the cameras had been positioned by professional filmmakers. These recordings will be presented to the Galactic Trade Commission as evidence of your crimes," Brooks continued. "But first, we need to complete our mission here." "What mission?" Sethkar asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "The elimination of organized piracy in this sector. Your fleet was just one target among many." Major Rick Coleman appeared on another screen. He was a large man, with a scarred face and the confident bearing of a career soldier. "Captain Sethkar, this is Major Coleman, commanding officer of the infiltration teams. My people have been gathering intelligence on pirate operations throughout this region for months." "How many operations like this are you running?" Vextal asked. "Currently?" 17 simultaneous missions across 4 sectors. We have teams embedded, with raider fleets from here to the Centauri expanse. The magnitude of the human operation was staggering. While the Krovaks had been focused on their own small-scale raids, the humans had been conducting a sector-wide intelligence operation. They had infiltrated dozens of pirate fleets, mapped their supply networks, and identified their bases. "Sir," Park said to Sethkar, "I need to show you something." She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the bridge. The display showed a 3-dimensional map of the local sector, with hundreds of red dots scattered throughout. Each red dot represents a pirate base, supply depot, or hidden stronghold that we have identified through our operations. The yellow dots are raider fleets that are currently under surveillance. The green dots are human forces positioned to strike at these targets. Sethkar stared at the display in amazement. There were more green dots than red ones. The humans had positioned forces throughout the sector, ready to strike at pirate operations simultaneously. "This is impossible," Sethkar said. "The human fleet is not large enough to mount operations of this scale." "You are thinking like a pirate," Morrison's voice came through the comm system. "Pirates think in terms of overwhelming force and direct confrontation. Humans think in terms of efficiency and strategic advantage." "What do you mean?" "We do not need a ship for every target. We need the right people in the right places, at the right time. A single team of specialists can accomplish what would take a fleet of warships." Commander Steve Walsh appeared on yet another screen. He was a thin man with glasses and the quiet confidence of a technical expert. "Captain Sethkar, this is Commander Walsh. I have been aboard your supply vessel for the past month, and I have some interesting information to share." "What kind of information?" "Financial records, supply manifests, communication logs, everything needed to trace your entire network back to its source." Walsh activated his own display, showing a complex web of connections between various pirate groups, suppliers, and corrupt officials. Your fleet purchases supplies from 17 different sources. You sell stolen goods through 12 different fences. You have safe harbor agreements with 6 different stations. "That information is supposed to be secret," Sethkar protested. "It was, but you have been carrying me and my equipment for weeks. I have had plenty of time to access your computer systems and copy everything." The revelation was devastating. The humans had not just captured the Kravak fleet. They had captured the entire network that supported it. Every supplier, every buyer, every contact would be exposed. "Captain Brooks," Sethkar said, "what happens now?" "Now we move to Phase 3 of the operation. The simultaneous strike against all pirate operations in this sector." As if on cue, reports began coming in from across the sector. Human forces were hitting pirate bases, supply depots, and raider fleets throughout the region. The attacks were coordinated to the minute, striking dozens of targets simultaneously. "Supply Depot Alpha 7 has been secured," came a report from one human team. "Raider Base Gamma 5 is under our control," reported another. "Smuggling operation at Station Delta 9 has been shut down," came a third report. The reports kept coming, each one representing another piece of the pirate network being dismantled. The humans had planned this operation with military precision, and they were executing it flawlessly. "Captain Zethkar," Brooks said, "I want you to understand something. This is not just about punishing pirates. This is about changing the nature of space travel in this sector." "What do you mean?" "For too long, merchant vessels have been forced to travel in convoys for protection. Trade routes have been disrupted by pirate activity. Entire colonies have been cut off from vital supplies because of raider attacks." "That is the nature of deep space," Sethkar replied. "There has always been piracy among the stars. Not anymore. Not in human-protected space." Morrison's voice came through the comm system again. "Captain Zethkar, do you want to know why humans send ships alone?" "Yes, because we refuse to accept that space travel has to be dangerous. We refuse to accept that pirates have a right to exist. We refuse to accept that fear should dictate how we live our lives. But how can you protect every ship, every route, every cargo vessel? We do not protect them by surrounding them with warships. We protect them by making sure that anyone who attacks them faces immediate and overwhelming consequences." Park nodded in agreement. "Every human merchant vessel that travels through dangerous space carries sensors, recording equipment, and communication devices. If a ship is attacked, we know about it instantly. If a ship is destroyed, we know who did it and where they went. And then we respond. Not with negotiations or warnings, but with action. Swift, decisive, and permanent." The final reports were coming in from across the sector. The human operation had been a complete success. 43 pirate bases had been captured or destroyed. 19 raider fleets had been intercepted and neutralized. Over 2,000 pirates had been arrested or killed. "Captain Zethkar," Brooks said, "your trial will be held on Earth in accordance with the Galactic Trade Commission's anti-piracy protocols. You will be treated fairly, but you will face justice for your crimes. And my crew? Those who surrender peacefully and cooperate with the investigation will be given the opportunity to rehabilitate. Those who resist will be treated as enemy combatants." Zethkar looked around his bridge at his defeated crew. They had been outmaneuvered, outfought, and utterly defeated by an enemy they had underestimated. The humans had turned their own tactics against them, using apparent weakness as a weapon. "I surrender," Zethkar said quietly. "My crew and I will cooperate with your investigation." "A wise decision," Brooks replied. "This sector is now under human protection. Any future pirate activity will be met with immediate and decisive response." As human security teams began boarding the Kravak vessels, Sethkar realized that everything had changed. The age of piracy in this sector was over. The humans had not just won a battle. They had won a war. The processing of the captured Kravak fleet took place aboard the human vessel Normandy, a massive ship that had been converted into a mobile command center. Sethkar found himself in a clean, well-lit interrogation room facing Colonel Beth Harper, the overall commander of the human anti-piracy operation. Harper was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations except for a small badge that read Galactic Trade Commission Enforcement Division. Her manner was professional, but not unkind. "Captain Zethkar," she began, "I want to explain to you exactly what happened here and why it happened." "I think I understand," Zethkar replied. "You defeated us through superior tactics and planning. That is part of it, but not the whole story. What happened here was the result of a fundamental difference in how humans and other species approach problems. Harper activated a holographic display that showed the cargo routes through the sector. When other species encounter piracy, they respond defensively. They add more ships to convoys, increase security, avoid dangerous areas. They treat piracy as a natural hazard, like asteroid fields or solar storms. Is that not logical? It is logical, but it is also limiting. Defensive measures restrict your own freedom of movement. They make trade more expensive and less efficient. They allow pirates to dictate the terms of engagement. Then what is the alternative? The alternative is to eliminate the threat entirely. Not to avoid pirates, but to remove them from the equation permanently. The display changed to show the network of human operations throughout the sector. 3 years ago, the Galactic Trade Commission asked humanity to help solve the piracy problem. Other species had tried military patrols, convoy escorts, and diplomatic negotiations. Nothing worked long-term, so what did you do differently? We studied the problem from the beginning. We looked at how piracy works, how it spreads, how it sustains itself. We realized that pirates are not just random criminals. They are part of a complex ecosystem that includes suppliers, buyers, corrupt officials, and safe havens. Harper showed Zethkar a detailed analysis of pirate operations. Your fleet, for example, was not independent. You relied on a network of contacts for supplies, information, and markets for stolen goods. You had agreements with various stations for repairs and safe harbor. You were connected to other pirate groups through shared suppliers and communication networks. That is true for all pirate fleets. Exactly. And that means that simply capturing one fleet does not solve the problem. You would be replaced by another group within months. The network would continue to function. So how do you stop it? You do not attack the pirates. You attack the network that supports them. You infiltrate their operations, map their connections, and then strike at everything simultaneously. The display showed the coordinated attacks that had taken place across the sector. In one day, we eliminated 43 pirate bases, captured 19 raider fleets, and arrested over 300 support personnel. We did not just remove the pirates. We destroyed the entire infrastructure that made piracy possible. Zethkar was beginning to understand the scope of the human operation. How long did this take to plan? 2 years of preparation? We had to infiltrate multiple pirate organizations, map their networks, and position our forces for simultaneous strikes. It was the largest covert operation in human history. And you did all of this just to make trade routes safer? We did it because we believe in freedom of movement. We believe that commerce should not be restricted by fear. We believe that the space lanes should be open to all legitimate travelers. Harper stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. Captain Zethkar, do you know what the most important principle of human civilization is? I do. Not that no one should have to live in fear. Not fear of crime, not fear of oppression, not fear of arbitrary violence. When pirates attack merchant vessels, they are not just stealing cargo. They are creating an atmosphere of fear that restricts the freedom of innocent people. But piracy has always existed. It is part of the nature of space travel. Only because people have accepted it as inevitable. Humans do not accept inevitability. We change things. The door to the interrogation room opened, and Morrison entered, still wearing his merchant captain's uniform, but now clearly revealed as a military officer. Captain Zethkar, I hope Commander Harper has been explaining our methods to you. Yes, but I still do not understand why you send ships alone. Even with your network of support, it seems unnecessarily dangerous. Morrison smiled. That is because you are still thinking like a pirate. You see a lone merchant vessel as prey, but that lone vessel is not defenseless. It is bait. Bait? Every human merchant ship that travels through dangerous space is equipped with advanced sensors, communication equipment, and defensive systems. If a ship is attacked, every human military unit in the sector knows about it instantly. The attackers are tracked, identified, and targeted for elimination. But what if the ship is destroyed before it can send a signal? Then the ship's destruction is recorded and transmitted automatically. The attackers gain nothing and lose everything. Pirates cannot profit from attacks that result in their own destruction. Harper returned to her seat. Captain Zethkar, I want you to understand something important. This operation was not about revenge or punishment. It was about changing the fundamental nature of space travel. What do you mean? From now on, any pirate who attacks a merchant vessel in this sector will face immediate and overwhelming retaliation. Not hours later, not days later, but immediately. The risk-reward ratio has been permanently altered. You cannot monitor every ship, every route, every cargo vessel. We do not need to. We only need to respond effectively when attacks occur. Once word spreads that piracy in this sector results in certain death or capture, the attacks will stop. Morrison nodded in agreement. Pirates are not fanatics. They are criminals seeking profit with minimal risk. When the risk becomes too high, they find other ways to make money. What about the pirates who do not care about the risk? They are eliminated permanently. The implications were staggering. The humans had not just defeated piracy in this sector. They had made it economically and tactically impossible. The mathematical certainty of retaliation would deter most pirates, and those who were not deterred would be destroyed. Captain Zethkar, Harper said, I have a proposition for you. What kind of proposition? Your knowledge of pirate operations in this sector is extensive. You know the remaining networks, the hidden bases, the corrupt officials. You can help us complete the elimination of piracy in this region. In exchange for what? Reduced sentences for you and your crew. Rehabilitation. Programs instead of prison. The opportunity to contribute to something positive instead of destructive. Zethkar considered the offer. His alternative was likely execution or life imprisonment. His crew would face similar fates. The human offer was generous, considering the crimes they had committed. If I agree to help, what would be required? Full cooperation with our investigation. Complete disclosure of all pirate operations you know about. Assistance in planning operations against remaining pirate networks. And after that? After that, you would be free to build a new life. Some of your crew might be eligible for positions in the legitimate merchant marine. Others might find work in law enforcement or security. Morrison added, Captain, the age of piracy is over. You can choose to be part of the solution or remain part of the problem. But either way, piracy in this sector is finished. Zethkar looked at the two human officers and realized that they were offering him something that no pirate had ever received before. A second chance. The old life was over, but a new one was possible. I accept your offer, he said quietly. I will help you eliminate the remaining pirate networks in this sector. Excellent, Harper replied. Then let us begin. We have a lot of work to do. As the debriefing session began, Zethkar realized that he was witnessing the end of an era. The humans had not just won a victory. They had fundamentally changed the nature of space travel. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the capture of the Kravak fleet, the sector had been transformed. Captain Dan Rodriguez guided his merchant vessel through the same nebula where the Kravaks had once hunted for prey. His ship, the Freedom's Call, carried medical supplies and farming equipment to the frontier colonies. Rodriguez was a veteran of the merchant marine, a man in his 40s with weathered hands and calm eyes. He had been making runs through dangerous space for 15 years, but this trip felt different. There was no tension, no fear, no need to constantly watch the sensors for approaching raiders. "Captain," his young co-pilot Karen Wells said nervously, "are you sure it is safe to travel without an escort? This used to be pirate territory." Rodriguez smiled and glanced at the recruitment poster on the bulkhead. The poster showed a group of diverse human faces above the words, "Join Human Merchant Marine, see the galaxy, make new friends, serve justice." At the bottom, in smaller text, was the phrase that had become famous throughout human space: "No one travels alone when everyone has your back." "Karen, let me tell you something about human space travel," Rodriguez said. "We do not send ships alone because we are reckless. We send ships alone because we are confident." "Confident in what?" "Confident that if anyone tries to hurt us, they will regret it very quickly." Rodriguez activated the communication system and broadcast on the standard merchant frequency. "This is Captain Dan Rodriguez of the Freedom's Call. We are carrying medical supplies to the Tau Ceti colony. Any vessels in the area, please respond." The response came back immediately from multiple sources. A human patrol vessel reported there, position 2 light hours away. A merchant convoy acknowledged their presence and offered assistance if needed. Most importantly, a voice identified itself as Lieutenant Sarah Kim, speaking from a monitoring station hidden in the asteroid belt. "Captain Rodriguez, this is Overwatch Station Delta. We have you on our screens, and all looks clear. Have a safe journey." "Thank you, Overwatch. Good to know you are watching out for us." Karen looked puzzled. "Captain, I thought you said we were traveling alone." "We are alone in the sense that we do not have escort ships flying beside us, but we are never really alone. The entire sector is monitored by human forces. Every merchant vessel is tracked, protected, and supported." Rodriguez brought up a display showing the local space around their ship. Dozens of green dots indicated human military vessels, monitoring stations, and rapid response teams positioned throughout the sector. The coverage was so complete that no ship could be attacked without immediate assistance arriving. "After the Kravak operation, everything changed," Rodriguez explained. "The pirates are gone, but more importantly, the system that supported them is gone. No more corrupt officials, no more illegal supply networks, no more safe havens for criminals." "What happened to the pirates who were captured?" "Some were executed for their crimes. Others, like Captain Zethkar, chose to cooperate with the authorities. They provided information that helped eliminate the remaining pirate networks." Rodriguez had heard that Zethkar was now working for the Galactic Trade Commission, using his knowledge of criminal operations to help prevent future piracy. It was an unusual arrangement, but it seemed to be working. "The interesting thing," Rodriguez continued, "is that other species are starting to adopt our methods. The Altarians have begun sending their cargo ships without escorts. The Centaurians are experimenting with single-ship operations. Are they having success? Mixed results. They have the technology and the tactics, but they lack something more important." "What is that?" "The absolute certainty that their government will respond to any attack with overwhelming force. Other species negotiate with pirates, offer ransoms, or try to avoid confrontation. Humans simply eliminate the threat." Their conversation was interrupted by an incoming transmission. The voice was professional and slightly accented, identifying itself as Captain Elena Vasquez of the merchant vessel. Star Trader. Freedom's call. This is Star Trader. We are carrying electronics to the Proxima station. Mind if we travel together for a while? Not at all, Star Trader. Always good to have company. As the two ships adjusted their courses to travel together, Rodriguez explained to Karen that this was another change in human merchant operations. Ships still traveled alone for tactical reasons, but they often coordinated with other vessels for social purposes. Captain, Karen said, I have been wondering about something. Why do the humans insist on maintaining the single-ship policy? If the pirates are gone, why not return to convoy operations? Rodriguez thought about the question for a moment. Because the single-ship policy is not just about pirates. It is about principles. What do you mean? When humans send ships alone, we are making a statement. We are saying that we refuse to be intimidated by criminals. We are saying that we will not allow fear to dictate how we live our lives. But is it not more efficient to travel in groups? Actually, no. Single ships are faster, more flexible, and less expensive to operate. Convoy operations require coordination, scheduling, and escort vessels. They restrict trade routes and limit economic opportunities. Rodriguez activated another display showing shipping statistics for the sector. Since the elimination of piracy, trade volume has increased by 300%. New colonies are being established because they can count on reliable supply deliveries. Economic growth has exceeded all projections. The pirates were that much of a problem? They were not just stealing cargo. They were creating an atmosphere of fear that restricted all economic activity. Merchants would not travel to certain systems. Colonists would not settle in remote areas. Investment in new projects was limited by security concerns. As they traveled through the nebula, Rodriguez pointed out various landmarks and explained their significance. That asteroid field over there used to be a pirate base. The humans destroyed it during the sector-wide operation. The wreckage serves as a warning to anyone who might consider returning to piracy. What about the space station near the fourth planet? That used to be a smuggling hub. Now it is a legitimate trading post operated by the Galactic Trade Commission. Former pirates who chose rehabilitation work there alongside law enforcement officers. Karen seemed impressed by the transformation. So the humans really did eliminate piracy from this entire sector. Not just eliminated it, they made it impossible. The risk-reward ratio has been permanently altered. Any pirate who attacks a merchant vessel faces certain death or capture. The profit margin cannot justify the risk. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the ship's sensors. A vessel was approaching from the direction of the outer planets, moving at high speed and broadcasting no identification signal. Captain, should we be concerned? Karen asked. Rodriguez checked his instruments and activated the communication system. Unknown vessel. This is the merchant ship Freedom's call. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. The response came back immediately. Freedom's call. This is the patrol vessel Defender. We detected your presence and wanted to verify that you are not experiencing any difficulties. No difficulties, Defender. We are on a routine cargo run. To Tau Ceti, understood. We will escort you to the system boundary and then return to patrol duties. As the military vessel took position alongside the Freedom's call, Rodriguez explained to Karen that this was standard procedure in human protected space. Every merchant vessel is monitored from the moment it enters the sector until it reaches its destination. If anything unusual happens, military forces respond immediately. How can the humans afford to maintain such extensive coverage? Because it pays for itself. The increased trade volume generates tax revenue that funds the protection system. Merchants are willing to pay higher fees for guaranteed security. They were approaching the edge of the nebula when another transmission came through. This time, it was from Captain Brooks, the commander who had led the anti-piracy operation. "Captain Rodriguez, this is Captain Brooks aboard the Normandy. How are conditions in the nebula?" "All clear, Captain. No problems to report." "Excellent. We are conducting a training exercise in the area. New officers need to understand how the protection system works." Rodriguez smiled. The human military was training the next generation of officers to maintain the security system that had eliminated piracy. It was a long-term commitment that ensured the sector would remain safe for decades to come. As they cleared the nebula and approached the Tau Ceti system, Rodriguez reflected on the changes he had witnessed. The transformation of the sector had been more than just a military victory. It had been a fundamental change in the nature of civilization. "Karen," he said, "I want you to remember something important about what we do." "What is that?" "We are not just delivering cargo. We are proving that commerce can exist without fear, that trade can flourish without the threat of violence, and that civilization can advance when good people refuse to accept that crime is inevitable. Is that why you joined the Merchant Marine?" "I joined because I believe in the human principle that space should be free and open to all legitimate travelers. Every cargo run we make is a statement that we will not be intimidated by criminals or restricted by fear." As the Freedom's call entered the Tau Ceti system, Rodriguez received a final transmission from Lieutenant Kim.